If you have any questions, please send them in the chat, and remember to keep your mic muted when you are not speaking. Thank you. And without further ado, I'll hand it over to Dr. Wolf.
Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, everybody online, and especially Justice. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm blessed, and I'm very pleased to be here. I really appreciate the invite.
Oh, we appreciate you being here. You have so much to offer our students and our community, and so it's our honor to be able to share all this content and information for our audience. And really, our target audience is high school students that are interested, or maybe they don't even know that they're interested in a career in technology, right? Or we'll call it STEM or STEAM, whatever you want to label it under. And I don't really like titles, and we'll talk about titles in a minute. But today, having you on here is extra special to me because you're a young person, you're able to have had this stellar career, right? And you're local. You didn't, you're not just running off to New York and LA. Now, I'm not saying that you won't, right? And then I'm not even going to put a limit or a capacitor on that you won't run to Paris or Germany or England or wherever or Africa, right? Some country in Africa might be the next tech mecca.
Mm-hmm.
So without any further ado, why don't you share with us who you are in a nutshell, right? That elevator spiel we always talk about.
Yeah, so I appreciate the platform here. So my name's Justice Sikikane. I live here in Minneapolis today. Born in Toronto, Canada. My parents are South African, so they survived through the apartheid era. So that same level of grit or immigrant mindset, if you will, is something that is manifested in me. Obviously, that has helped me navigate my career. So in terms of the level of success that I've been able to experience and appreciate thus far in my life, a lot of it I give to just the discipline and the structure that I received growing up around my parents. And yeah, today, I'm an IT manager locally for Hennepin Theater Trust. It's funny you bring it up, just moving around domestically. There have been opportunities to relocate for work, and I've turned those down just for the simple fact that I have two young, beautiful kids. And being able to be present and inspire them and be here to support them will always remain a top priority for me. So the opportunities will continue to come, but Minneapolis is my home.
Yeah, Minneapolis, the Twin Cities, is definitely, for the good, bad, and ugly of it all, it's not too bad of a place to make a way. So tell us a little bit about, in relativity to some of the important things or maybe the highlights that you've experienced. And in chat, I just dropped your YouTube channel, which I think is absolutely incredible. So dropped your YouTube channel link into our chat, which Lindsay will share out with our population of students and adults. Tell us a little bit about one of the key technology areas that you think is really important for young people to consider going into. We got these high school students that are on the either way out front of interest, or they don't know that they're interested in technology. Can you give some advice on that high school student thinking about making some moves or investing some time into learning a technology?
Yeah, so we're going through an interesting shift. A lot of industry experts will refer to it as a fourth industrial revolution. What we're experiencing here, Dr. Michael, is, when I grew up, and I'm in my 30s, early 30s, the way we interacted with software was a lot more antiquated then than it is now. So installing a simple program like Microsoft Office consisted of installing through, multiple floppy disks into your system, and then running the application based on its intended purpose and needs for what it is that you needed. Today, there's this concept around software as a service, right, in the cloud. Organizations are moving towards a subscription-based model in terms of how they engage with their software enterprise applications. So take Salesforce for an example. Everything that you utilize Salesforce for, managing your contacts, your opportunities, your leads, a traditional and a core CRM is all managed in the cloud, which basically just means, for all intents and purposes, Salesforce has taken on the onus of managing the server environment, and then has provided an avenue for you to access their platform through the internet, through the cloud. And then you work with Salesforce based on a subscription-based model per user per month. And based on that, you're able to utilize their software application and that suite. So this continues to be where industries are shifting from a technology perspective. And organizations are going to have to be much more agile in understanding that the days of having an on-prem server physical environment where all your data is stored is days of the past.
That's definitely true. And I think some of the key elements out of there, I heard there was a definitely distinct technology, but there's also cloud, right? Use the term, some buzzwords that are definitely out there. So I think cloud technology and doing things differently, that old school traditional mindset definitely is a thing of the past. However, very important. So tell us a little bit then about how you're able to leverage, your experience in that realm and then enter into the workforce. I mean, were you always passionate about technology, or how did you, I'll say, fall into, or how did you become acquainted or exposed to technology?
Yeah, interestingly enough, my father's in technology, and that was how we came here, to be quite frank with you.
Mm-hmm.
He was presented with an opportunity to work for an organization out here on a work visa. And we came here, and we were here for about a decade until we became permanent residents. But I was able to firsthand see what technology can do, not just for households, but for businesses, for society, for communities. And technology was something that naturally came to me. I mean, I was building computers when I was about 12, 13 years of age, going to Tiger Direct or Newegg and ordering the motherboard and the memory, the RAM, the hard drive. And I was physically putting together these systems. And I truly, truly enjoyed doing this. And, as I've gotten older, obviously, I've been able to understand technology and its enablement capabilities on a much larger scale. So a lot of what I do today, working for an organization that's in the arts, is about, identifying the nexus between, or the intersection between technology, philanthropy, and community engagement. There are a lot of elements that come into how organizations can navigate their businesses effectively with technology being a catalyst. For example, right now we're all staying at home just based on the governor's orders during this peacetime emergency. And a platform that we use today, much like Zoom, Microsoft Teams, allows us to engage, collaborate through video, through messaging, through communicating. And that's just a simple piece of technology that Microsoft has been offering as a collaboration tool. And there are a lot of other tools that support increased productivity, much like Microsoft Teams.
You hit a lot of interesting topics just in that one past few statements. So let's talk a little bit about shifting gears, talk a little bit about remote classrooms, online classrooms, and any advice to students while we are in this, COVID-induced stay-at-home order. Federal government has indicated, the quote unquote experts have said, there's a relationship to the flu season and a resurgence of COVID. And since we have learned that nothing is guaranteed, right? You can't guarantee you're going to show up at your school and be able to get in due to some emergency. And in this case, everybody's staying in. If this were to happen again, how can a student prepare? Two-sided questions. How can they prepare themselves for the fall so that they're ready? But then maybe even more importantly, while they have the time, the extra time, or maybe the idle time, what suggestions or what types of technologies or types of things and skills that they maybe should consider learning while they may have, an hour or two a week to start being self-taught?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think a lot of students obviously will have to fall in alignment with what is communicated from their school districts, but getting apprised on the capabilities of video tools like Zoom is going to be the way of the future. So understanding how to use the web-based version of that versus the desktop app versus the mobile app, that's all going to be essential for how students need to engage with their classrooms going forward. I would say in terms of getting ahead of the game, there's this platform that Salesforce manages, and it's an educational platform. It's trailhead.salesforce.com. I actually built a lot of my subject matter expertise on this platform. Trailhead.salesforce.com is a free gamified platform and link that basically walks you through all the different key elements of technology, what's available. You can learn about artificial intelligence. You know, a lot of people don't realize that artificial intelligence, the concept, has been around since 1955, 56, when the phrase was first coined. The reason why artificial intelligence is going viral now is just due to the fact that we've seen more of an abundance of data in the last decade than we have for decades prior. So what makes artificial intelligence a catalyst is when you have an abundance of data, you can then leverage machine learning or deep learning to achieve desirable outcomes. But it's not until you have an abundance of data that these sorts of principles and practices can truly be of great benefit to an organization. But with trailhead.salesforce.com, you can not only learn about Salesforce, you can not only learn about what I talked about previously, what is software as a service, what's platform as a service, what is a subscription-based model, why do I need a CRM, how does that integrate with marketing and email automation. I mean, you know, it's infinite. And to be quite frank with you, being able to navigate in the spaces that I operate in today requires several things. First, becoming a demonstrated subject matter expert in a domain area, and then over time, evolving into a perceived thought leader. That's when you can start having a valued contribution to society on how organizations and communities should be looking at technology. But it all starts with a firm foundation, and trailhead.salesforce.com helped define my subject matter expertise around technology, its enablement capabilities, CRM, and so forth.
So let me just drill down a little bit. You know, the term SME or subject matter expert is definitely resonates with me, right? I would concur that becoming a very knowledgeable person or a subject matter expert on a particular technology has its benefits. So let's talk about what it takes to become, or can you share what it takes to become a subject matter expert in a particular technology, no matter what it is, or use you as an example.
Yeah. So I used to work for Cargill, and Dr. Michael, I was hired there as a systems analyst. So essentially, they hired me to manage a portfolio of legacy-based applications that we called KLO, keeping the lights on. Mm-hmm. And my supervisor at the time came to me and said, "Hey, we have this Salesforce thing that we're trying to grow in, and we want you to learn about it so that you can help advise us as a team and an organization, for that matter, on how we could not just raise utilization and adoption of the platform, but effectiveness." And they sent me to a training in San Francisco, and my instructor, a well-known, she's now a VP for the organization Salesforce, walked me through the very granular details of how Salesforce is programmatically designed and how I could leverage, programmatic tactics to customize and configure the platform specific to my organization's needs. So becoming a subject matter expert, quite frankly, requires you to put in the work. You have to go in, you have to understand the skeleton, the framework, how does the data move? You have to understand all the intricacies so that you can not just troubleshoot, but really understand where the enhancement opportunities are for a given platform, software, application, what have you. And then once you become that subject matter expert, your peers and many like-minded folks will rely on you to be the expert, right? The subject matter expert. Hey, how do we do this? How do we do that? Or, I read this knowledge article on how to implement this, but for whatever reason, when I implemented it, it didn't work. Can you help me understand what I did wrong? What sequential steps did I miss? And it's truly a fulfilling process and a journey, because over time, what happens is you've been putting in the work and you've been learning, you've been gathering knowledge, you've been testing your limits. What happens is a turning point will happen somewhere down the road where you'll respond to something or you'll advise on something, and just like a fly on the wall, you'll think to yourself, wait a minute, like I'm the expert in the room now. I'm the one that was able to formulate this sort of response to this given business requirement or objective. And it's gratifying. It's liberating in a lot of different ways. And then from there, you build a lot of confidence, and then you find yourself advising. And then again, that's how you naturally become a thought leader. But to answer your question, becoming a subject matter expert requires you to put in the work. You really have to put in the work.
Love it. Yeah, that's a great answer. So you have amassed all this technology expertise, and much love for you, making sure that your family is stable and staying put for a little bit anyway until they are able to enjoy their education, their community. However, I do want to ask you and pivot a little bit to the arts. And one of the things that we talked about right before the show started was, people think of the arts and theater, and how does that, if you could share your quote unquote title, but then what you actually do, but then I think more importantly, how applicable the technology piece is to an industry like theater. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I know my colleagues are going to be watching, and they're going to be proud of me because, listen, before I joined Hennepin Theater Trust, we're a nonprofit organization based out of Minneapolis. I didn't know much, one, to be quite frank with you, about nonprofits. Secondly, I didn't know much either about theater. But what we do today for the community and for the greater MSP region is significant. So my title today is IT manager at Hennepin Theater Trust. And a lot of what I do is I connect the dots, right? I demonstrate what is possible. I highlight the fact that technology is boundless. We use a lot of different platforms. We have marketing. We're moving towards a new marketing and email automation solution that sits within Salesforce called Pardot. So I'm working with our digital communications manager to effectively understand how that can be achieved and how that can be rolled out in a way that supports the organization's goals and requirements, for that matter. Salesforce is another tool. Obviously, prior to a robust CRM, companies and organizations, much like Hennepin Theater Trust, were using Excel spreadsheets. Well, with an Excel spreadsheet, there's very minimal opportunity to automate and to really draw great intelligence out of who are our donors. What sort of frequency do they donate with us? Why do they donate with us? Is it because of our programming through Spotlight Education, which is one of our great initiatives and pillars that our organization sits on? What sort of outreach are we having in the community, and how does technology tell that story? So a lot of what I do today is about communicating and articulating the value of what technology can do with helping us further our mission, which is to have statewide impact in our communities.
Amazing. Yep, totally amazing. So being able to take those gifts and talents and apply them to, probably in that context, almost many industries and businesses, right? Actually leveraging that power.
Oh, yeah.
So we have so many topics and directions I guess we could go into. We talked about putting in the work effort and the sweat equity. We talked about, already working and being able to have an opportunity to elevate your level of technology and understanding. But maybe share a little bit about the younger Justice and what type of characteristics or things that you can suggest other students do that is maybe applicable to today. You're still in that, I call it a young person because I'm pretty antiquated here, but the reality of it is the work that you put in was based on, those things that you said. But today, how do students build and prepare themselves for you know, that first job, or maybe they have a first of anything to be able to get into tech. You know, I see out, and I'll just get on my little soapbox before I stop real quick, is um, how do I prepare myself to get ready? So like, do I have a resume? Do I need to get my LinkedIn profile? You know, I'm only 16. Do I actually have an opportunity to get to set up a LinkedIn account? All those other types of questions that really lead to, how do I get ready for an internship to make myself attractive without branding and going too heavy on social media? But when I get that first opportunity to apply, what things do I need to have in place? And then that work that led up to it, is it, hey, I'm self-taught in Python or, Scratch or whatever it is, Java even, right? JavaScript. I've taken part of robotics class, or I've been part of the math club or chess club or whatever it may be. Can you share a little bit about that high school experience? And not everybody, we have to realize, has the same opportunities. There's not always a robotics club at a high school. There's not always a whatever at a high school. Can you maybe share and help navigate all of our students towards those opportunities, whether it be self-taught or leveraging those opportunities in the high schools and community?
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of LinkedIn. So I'm a firm believer that the days of having a physical on paper resume are days of the past. What I look for in talent and ambitious young individuals that are interested in growing a career is what does your digital footprint look like? Having a LinkedIn is significant because it's dynamic, it's ever evolving. How you engage with peers, how you engage with leaders, how you engage with content are all documented data points that I can extract from an individual just based on how they maneuver on LinkedIn. And that, to me, once you put together a cluster of data points based on somebody's activity on LinkedIn, you have all the information you need. The digital footprint that is significant for me is around, do they have Twitter? Are they on Instagram? Are they on Facebook? Not to get into the personal side of things, but how somebody positions themselves out on social media is going to be representative of the sort of ambition and sort of value that they will bring to whatever their endeavors are. So if I'm in high school, I say get on LinkedIn. I mean, LinkedIn, you're going to be on all these other social platforms anyway, so why not invest in you? Get on LinkedIn and make sure that what you're doing, what you're learning, certifications, trailhead.salesforce.com modules, maybe Dr. Michael shares a post about robotics and the importance of that in the 21st century. And maybe you just took a class at Metro State about, in robotics. So maybe you go and comment on his post and say, hey, Dr. Michael, I saw that you, were commenting and saying this and that about robotics. Here's what I learned at Metro State. Would love to connect with you for coffee so that I can further understand your level of experience and what you've gathered over X amount of time. Me, Justice, I can go on LinkedIn and see that entire exchange, right? Because it's right there on the forefront. So get on LinkedIn, be present, and be aware too of your digital exhaust. And essentially what that is, I learned from a mentor, Vala Afshar. He works for Salesforce as well. Your digital exhaust is going to be that stuff that just drags along, that doesn't really support what it is that you're trying to achieve, right? So if in person you say that you are excited about technology and you want to work for this opportunity and you will do everything to strive in this and that, but then I Google your name and everything I see is a direct conflict of everything you just said in this face-to-face interview, that's your digital exhaust. So make sure that that aligns well. And I think the reason why I bring that up is that because there's so many available social platforms today than there was 20, 30 years ago, even when I was in high school, mid 2000s, a lot of folks are engaging with social media and not realizing that this is a digital footprint. This is a digital data point. I mean, I can simply Google your name and see what video you uploaded on TikTok or Instagram or Twitter or whatever. So you have to be aware of that as you're building a professional brand. And you have to be aware of that as you're looking to navigate and define your self-worth as people are perceiving you from the outside looking in.
Love it. I love it. Are there any particular topics before we run out of time that you want to cover or that you'd like to share with our audience?
I mean, I would say the only thing I would drive home, and it's something you and I have talked about offline and we continue to talk about with these kind of conversations, is that right now is the time to be in technology. Right now is the time to understand what technology is and the value that it can serve businesses and your community and the overall society. And it's not very difficult to learn technology. It really isn't, to be quite frank with you. You know, in 2016, I was a novice in Salesforce, to be quite frank with you. In that same year, I had an opportunity to travel to San Francisco and speak at Salesforce's annual conference, which has about 200,000 people in attendance. And what I was talking about was Salesforce and putting together a governance strategy and process based on 3 key components. And all of the stuff that I had learned from Trailhead, right? So I didn't have to spend, Dr. Michael, I didn't have to spend 20 hours doing, 20 hours a week doing in the weed programming and understanding all of this very granular level logic. All I really needed to do was immerse myself and understand, okay, on the front end, declaratively, what is Salesforce? What do companies want out of Salesforce? How can I speak in a manner that is not just strategic, but in a manner that demonstrates the value that one could get out of Salesforce? And I gleaned all of that off of Trailhead, and 15, 20-minute modules explaining very high level, here's what you need to do, here's how you do it, here are the basic principles. And sure enough, that launched my speaking career as a subject matter expert on all things Salesforce. So get online, one, get to Trailhead, but most importantly, look this stuff up, try to figure it out, ask questions from folks that you follow or are connected to on LinkedIn, individuals such as myself. I will gladly help you understand what I like to refer to as the blueprint on how technology is enabling the 21st century.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And let me tell you, somebody like you offering anybody the opportunity to connect with you and to share and ask questions, I think high school students need to definitely take advantage of that. So before we go any further, are there any questions, Lindsay, from the chat room?
Yeah, one question here. So something you were talking about, your digital footprint, I think is really important. I've personally seen people lose internships or future jobs over making mistakes on social media. And I think a lot of people have this perception that if they have a private page, their content can't be seen by people looking to hire. Is this true, or is it something that they still need to worry about even though they have a private page?
Having a private page is step one, but obviously if it's on the internet, it's on the internet. So the reality of the matter is you should be aligned with who you truly are and the sort of opportunities you want to create for yourself. So if your page is private, but the things you're talking about and the things you're doing are unsavory, that is still going to catch up to you in some way or another. You're not on a private Facebook page closed off to everybody with no connections and no friends. So, you're going to slip up somewhere. It's certain content based on a mutual friend. If somebody comments on your post and this particular post, the privacy wasn't set to private, but it was set to friends, but a friend of a friend saw what, it gets to become too much of a science. You're just better off just ensuring that how you position yourself out on social and that digital footprint supports a narrative that will help you achieve desirable outcomes in your life. And if those two conflict with each other, then you will continue to experience issues with navigating your career aspirations effectively.
Thank you for that. One more question. Did you have any mentors or coaches that impressed you along your way?
Yeah, I did. I had several mentors. Early on, I used to work for Best Buy in retail sales. And my first mentor, one of my first mentors, he's out on LinkedIn. His name is Jeff Cole. He's somebody I still consider a friend and a very close mentor that helped me frame up how I could not just coexist in a global society, but how I could fully authentically be myself while navigating my career aspirations. So Jeff was a big one growing up. I still continue to have mentors now throughout my professional career as I've gotten a little bit older and more experienced. But yeah, identifying a mentor and one that is based on an organic and authentic relationship, and to where you can be your true transparent self with this individual or individuals will help you get to self-actualization, which by definition is reaching one's full potential.
That was great. One more question. Would you pick self-teaching yourself, about, anything in technology, a certification, a 2-year or 4-year degree?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry. My son he's playing games in the background. He distracted me. You said a 2-year, 4-year, or a certification?
Yeah, 2-year, 4-year, teaching yourself, or a certification.
So that's a very tough question. I think we're going through a shift. And let me expand on that a bit. Historically speaking, I think individuals that acquired a 4-year degree and how that positioned them in opportunities of interviewing for jobs and careers wasn't necessarily always about the degree itself. It was more so about the ability to stay convicted over an extended period of time and complete something from start to finish. There are a lot of smart individuals out here that are doing exceptionally well that don't have any degrees. So being self-taught is definitely something that everyone should be doing for their entire lifetime. Whether you have 15 4-year degrees or you have none, you should always be self-teaching yourself. So I would say, as it relates to technology, there are specific degree programs that can help support your way of thinking. For example, Minnesota State University in Mankato has a degree entitled Cognitive Science. This really helps you. So there's a philosophical aspect, disciplinary route you can take with that degree, and there's a psychological avenue you can take with that degree. This allows you to distinguish the inherent differences between objective reasoning and subjective reasoning. And when you think about technology and developing solutions, you need both. You need to understand when subjective reasoning should be your driver, but you need to understand the importance of also fact-driven researching and solutioning. So yeah, there are degree programs. I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. There are degree programs that are of high value around the 4-year and 2-year degree approach. I personally am a fan of certifications and being self-taught. I think in the 21st century, that allows you to be more agile. It allows you to keep a little bit more money in your pockets. And it allows you to very quickly understand a particular domain area or a particular technology, in this particular case, that you're targeting. So if you want to acquire a Salesforce admin certification, it's a very specific certification that demonstrates the skill set and the activities that a Salesforce admin would carry out for any company in the 21st century. This is a job that can pay you anywhere from $80,000 a year to $100,000, depending upon the organization you're working for. And all we're really looking for is minimal experience. Some companies don't even require you to have any experience. They just want to know that you have the certification and you've demonstrated an interest in serving as an expert for the organization around Salesforce administration.
Say, Justice, before we ask the next question, I literally just found out that Mankato State was ranked either #2 in the nation, and I don't want to actually state that as fact, but they are a high-ranking institution in the realm of artificial intelligence. And so I mean, they're well known, you know, a little quiet Minnesota town, or it used to be quiet anyway,
Right.
but their system is pretty strong. And so, you know, we're backed by Minnesota State. So I definitely got to give a shout out to Mankato, but even for the students, the hundreds of students that we have in the Minnesota STEM partnership, I think that's actually an incredible connection. While we're here, maybe we'll talk about it offline, but if you know anybody at Mankato State, you can get a brother hookup. Definitely let me know.
Absolutely.
We've seen a lot of really top 3% students that have that natural gift to go into that, but there's also the other 97% of the students that have that very same opportunity right here and be able to go to Mankato State or any college, right, to pursue that self-taught or even that degree, is pretty incredible just in that advanced technology. So that's all I wanted to say is you're like the second person, technically the third person to then bring that up in the past 48 hours. So.
Yeah, no, it's a great, I'm biased. That's my alma mater, but Mankato was just, it's a great university. And, you know, Adam Thielen, I'm a diehard Minnesota Vikings fan, but that's also his alma mater. Minnesota Vikings wide receiver. But no, honestly, you know, I'm glad you were a fan of those comments, Dr. Michael, because, you know, education is going to be what it is. I mean, as long as you demonstrate an insatiable desire to learn, you're going to thrive wherever you go, to be quite frank. Whether you go to Harvard, whether you go to Mankato, whether you go to Century College, Embry Hills, not a lot of us, unfortunately, are presented with opportunities to go to university, whether it's socioeconomic driven or whether it's, you know, family dynamics. The reality of the matter is, you know, you just have to meet people with where they're at. And, you know, before I got to Woodbury High School, which is in the nation ranked of the 26,000 high schools, ranked in the top 1,000, top 900 for that matter. They're a 5-star rated school. I was in the inner city. So I was going to, you know, I was a St. Paul Public Schools kid. And I thrived there. I did exceptionally well. But simply due to the fact that when you compare Woodbury School District and St. Paul School District, there's not an equitable distribution of resources. So in St. Paul, I was taking AP, IB courses and top of my class and doing exceptionally well. Then I went to Woodbury and they put me in average classes and I was just barely getting by. So what does that tell you, right? So, you know, would I be where I'm at today if I didn't have my education from Woodbury? I don't know. I think Woodbury served me in a great positive way. Just because the standards and the distribution of resources there, like I said, were much higher. And not everyone has an opportunity to leave the inner cities as I did with my family and go get an education for a private school or even a school in the suburbs that's a little bit more prevalent with more updated resources and things of that nature. You know, I went and visited my old elementary school, Highwood Hills Elementary in St. Paul, and I was there in the 90s, and I met with the principal, and, you know, the library is still diminished and it's still lacking in much needed funding. The library is exactly the same as it was when I was there as a third grader, third, fourth, and fifth grade. And that to me is unacceptable, right? So these kids in neighboring communities and neighborhoods are going to that elementary school and they don't have the same resources that my son has for the school he goes to in the Farmington School District, right? I mean, school he goes to looks like a mini college campus. And the reality is you're born into the circumstances you're born into. Every kid should deserve an equal opportunity to thrive and not just survive. So this is something I'm constantly looking at, and this is why technology is such a big deal for me, is because I've offered, and I am working with Highwood Hills Elementary School to put something together in which I can help those kids learn technology at a very young age. Because again, you know, universities receive funding, high schools receive support, but the pivotal years of an elementary student are the building blocks of where they will probably one day aspire to be. And if we don't invest in them at a very young age and say what's possible, then they'll gridlock themselves into a reality that doesn't support a narrative that says that they can thrive and be the next president of the United States or the next CEO of Hennepin Theater Trust or Cargill or 3M or whatever. So.
All right, Lindsay, any other questions from the audience?
Yeah, we've got one last question here. Has your career allowed you to meet anyone famous? And if so, would you care to comment on your interaction with them if you've had any?
Yeah, I've met Michelle Obama, Mark Cuban, Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, Mark Benioff, billionaire, philanthropist, CEO of Salesforce. In fact, I met Mark Benioff. I might have met him a couple times prior to this particular meeting that I had with him that Dr. Michael's aware of. But he invited me to have dinner with him and Ivanka Trump from the White House in Indianapolis last year to essentially talk about workforce development. And putting all politics aside, it was just very fascinating. And to have an opportunity to go and have dinner with two billionaires at a table and talk about workforce development as a topic was just, and for them to want to hear what my thoughts were on the matter was just unbelievable. So yeah, I continue to meet pretty successful and pretty influential people as a result of my involvement with technology and the opportunities that has birthed. Michelle Obama was another one that, yeah, I mean, it's Michelle Obama. So,
Man,
it's been a blessing. Great question.
Fantastic. Well, Lindsay, thank you for moderating those questions. Thank you, Justice, on behalf of PowerUP IT, Minnesota State, and all the great persons that donate and support us to be able to deliver these types of programs. We thank you definitely for your time and energy today. I know that students that are interested, or they might not know they're interested, but once they watch this, they definitely will have an opportunity to reach out to you and meet you here on LinkedIn. And we will make sure in our post show wrap up, Lindsay captured a number of different links out there that we'll put in there, as well as how to connect with you on LinkedIn. So thank you very much, Justice. Everybody on the call, thank